happens when a routine city council meeting turns into a showdown over religion, identity, and what it means to be American? In Dearborn, Michigan, that question exploded into the open this week. As hundreds gathered around a city council meeting, police made 22 arrests, and a Detroit pastor accused the city of operating under Sharia law. But there's an important detail behind that explosive claim that changes how this entire confrontation should be understood. The controversy centered on Pastor Lorenzo Sewell of 180 Church, who used his public comments to deliver a blunt warning about Dearborn and Muslim influence. Sewell claimed that America had lost this city, and argued that Dearborn was no longer operating under American law. His comments reflected a broader campaign led alongside conservative activist Jake Lang, who had promoted what organizers called a Christian Crusader March aimed at stopping what they described as the Islamification of America. But here's where the story gets more complicated. There is no evidence presented in the reporting that Dearborn has replaced American law with Islamic religious law. The Sharia claim is instead being used by Sewell and other protesters to describe what they believe is unequal treatment of Muslims or excessive political and cultural influence. That distinction matters, because criticizing government policy is one thing. Claiming an American city has abandoned its legal system is a much bigger allegation. The confrontation had been building for weeks. On August 2nd, a religious procession known as the Arbaeen March was met by a group of agitators in Dearborn, and the confrontation turned physical. Dearborn police said officers intervened, arrested one person, and continued looking for others suspected of unlawful behavior. Police also said violence would not be tolerated regardless of which side someone was on. That incident became a major talking point for Sewell and Lang. They argued that authorities weren't doing enough, while Dearborn officials pointed to the arrest and ongoing investigation as evidence that police were responding. And when the city council protest finally arrived on August 18th, tensions were already running extremely high. The city moved the council meeting from its usual location to the Henry Ford Centennial Library and brought in additional law enforcement because officials expected a major demonstration. Hundreds of people gathered, crowds pushed toward entrances, and police worked to keep opposing groups apart. By the end of the day, Dearborn police reported 22 arrests for various misdemeanor offenses, including disorderly conduct and breach of peace. No injuries were reported, and despite everything happening outside, the city council meeting itself was completed without incident. Inside that meeting, the confrontation became even more symbolic. Lang spoke before leaving the room and was seen tearing pages from a book that observers identified as a Quran. Sewell then delivered his accusation about Sharia law. Other residents pushed back, calling for unity and condemning rhetoric they believed was targeting an entire religious community. The result was a council chamber that became a snapshot of a much larger American argument over free speech, religious freedom, immigration, and national identity. And then Mayor Abdullah Hammoud answered. Hammoud rejected the idea that Dearborn belongs to one religious group at the expense of everyone else. He argued that portraying the city as having been overtaken by Muslims attacks not only Arab and Muslim residents, but also Christians and people of other faiths who helped build the community. He emphasized that people with different names, backgrounds, traditions, and ways of worshiping God can all belong to America at the same time. That message is especially significant because Dearborn really is unusual in American demographics. Census data has been used to show that people reporting Middle Eastern or North African ancestry make up a majority of the city's population, with the often cited figure around 54.5%. That makes Dearborn a particularly visible example of how immigration and demographic change can reshape an American community over generations. But demographics don't automatically determine the law, and religious identity doesn't erase constitutional rights. That's the central tension underneath this entire dispute. Protesters have every right to criticize government officials and express their beliefs, just as Muslim and Arab Americans have the right to participate in civic life without being treated as a single political bloc. And that's ultimately why what happened in Dearborn matters beyond Michigan. This wasn't simply an argument at a city council meeting. It was a collision between two very different visions of America, one warning that traditional American identity is being pushed aside, and another insisting that America's identity has always included people of different faiths and backgrounds living under the same laws. The protests may be over for now, but the argument certainly isn't. Dearborn has become a national symbol in a debate that is likely to continue wherever questions about immigration, religion, political power, and American identity collide. The challenge for everyone involved is whether those disagreements can remain political arguments instead of becoming something much more dangerous. If you found this update helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Prime Wire, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest news. Thanks for watching.